aren't worth imprisoning, right? Because you're not going to send them back to Assisi, right? An army wants them destroyed. They only save and feed the people that will be ransomed to get money. Does that make sense? Many people's lives are worthless. So the first thing an enemy does, or the first thing a loser does, is to bury people alive. And if you've seen the movie Francesco, right, with Mickey Rourke, that's the opening scene. And they're burying all of his fellow prisoners are chained to one another, and they're putting dirt on top of them. These guys are living and breathing, right? Because he was worth saving because his father had money. He was worth saving, and he was saved for a year until his father came through with the money. So, what happens to the guy's mind? Well, it certainly raises questions about what is the worth of human life, who's worth living and who's not worth living, what's the value, of my possessions, if they only mean that somehow I want more possessions and that my possessions make another's life meaningless. I don't know. I mean, that could be psychobabble, but I do think that real images need to be seen. We need to see that, the cruelty of a war. But we also need to see what it does to a person's psyche. We talk about traumatic, and then he comes back depressed, remember? Why? Well, I don't know, but I know that he saw in a cross of San Damiano a person. A person. He didn't see a cross. That's the one thing about me. I've told this story before to a few of you, but let me tell you. It's St. Augustine's story. At St. Augustine Friary, we had a teacher from St. Fidelis who had given us a gift. And she gave us this gift, Peggy Dunlop, I think her name was. She gave us a gift of a picture that she and her husband had cherished, but they were going to pass on, and they wanted to share it with the friars. So we had the unveiling of this picture, and we had this unveiling of the picture after evening prayer, and friars gasped when they saw the picture in the dining room. And one of our friars at St. Augustine's, who's not known for not having an opinion, said, he said, not in the dining room. I don't have a picture of the dining room. And what it was a lamb. It was a lamb led to slaughter. One of Caravaggio's students, Savarone, a great artist. But it was a picture of a lamb tied, led to slaughter. And this friar said, not in the dining room, right? Now, you have to understand, because right next to the picture in the dining room was a San Damiano crucifix. And he could stuff his face with macaroni and cheese with a San Damiano crucifix with no problem. Every day he'd be stuffing his face, but no, the lamb, the poor little lamb, right? Because there's something about, it's just a cross, guys. It's just a cross. They're all over the place. People are wearing them, right? Just a cross. But Francis didn't see a cross. Saw a person. And that person had a heart. And he felt the heart of that person who cared and loved him. Remember, he would come from prayer crying, love is not love, right? Love is not love. That's what he saw in the cross of San Damiano. And he looked out, and from the love he felt on that cross, he looked out and he saw people, persons, worthness. He saw it in the lepers. And when he went to the leper, and it says, a great line in his testament, the Lord led me among them, and I had compassion on them. I had mercy on them. In other words, my heart went out to them. They were people now. They were brother and sister. And he brought that message to a whole world. Because it wasn't just then people, but the whole world is related. That we all belong. And I love the Canticle of the Creatures precisely because it begins with the only relationship that matters. Most High, glorious God, Almighty, yours are the praise and the glory and all blessing. Yours are the praise, glory, and all blessing. To you alone, Most High, do they belong, and no mere mortal is worthy to mention your name. And this is like the greatest thing, and the image that comes to my mind is, with something so great that all of us are focused on, what is the rest of us except all related in some small way to this majesty, huh? It's almost, I think of, I can become so much like an ant, worried about my anthill and what my ants are doing today. But there's one God who oversees it all and embraces all of it. And that's where all life belongs. And so that when we look out to one another, brother, sister, brother, all in relationship to me. The bird and the cow, and I'm going to go vegan here in a minute, but each of them in relationship. We belong to each other, intimately linked to a life on this planet, and the Lord calls us to have a heart for that we belong. You're secular Franciscans, and I believe that you belong to the order, I really do. Did you know that there was a general chapter? Could I ask how many people knew that there was a general chapter of the secular Franciscans 3 months ago? 4 months ago. Okay, now, you belong to this order. This is your order. So, I'm going to tell you how stupid I am. I didn't know there was one. I decided the other day to go online just to find out, well, what should I talk about? And I found this newsletter, lovely newsletter, by the way. I found this newsletter from the national level called the Franciscan Voice, the Vox Franciscana. And it's a report on a general chapter. Anne was there talking about, Anne Moltney, talking about the secular Franciscans. But I ran off the newsletter for those of you who might not know that it took place. But one of the things that strikes me is when they talk about the various things that they would like in the coming term to deal with issues of importance to the composition of the order, especially as regards formation, as regards spiritual assistance, as regards finances, and those things that make an order happen. But when it talks about, for instance, that formation, it talks about to assure the identity of the secular Franciscan, and to strengthen their calling. I'm going to get the exact words. I'm sorry. I was hoping I'd remember it. But the integrity of the vocation, and also their sense of belonging to the order. Their sense of belonging to the order. That's what struck me. Man, that formation always should be a process where we know who we are, but then we know that we belong to this order. And I can't help but think that no Franciscan's worth the salt unless we know that we also are not belonging to an order, so that we can be different from other people. I was raised in a different generation than the generation that's coming up, and so I had different emphases in the formation that I had from my friars. Let me tell you one thing about the habit. When I was in the novitiate, we weren't allowed to wear the habit outside the novitiate house. Okay? And so I was working one time with teaching catechism in Pasadena, Maryland, and I had to stop up at the drugstore. So I stopped up at the drugstore, and I had my habit on. And somebody who knew St. Conrad's, the friary where I lived, someone told my superior that they saw me at Rite Aid or Revco with a habit. Well, my novice director said, I heard you were in your habit at Revco. I said, well, yeah, I was. He said, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Now, I thought, well, I'm a friar, right? I could wear a habit, right? But he was afraid that I thought I was something special because I had a habit. And he didn't want us to feel special. But in fact, to this day, I do go to CZ a lot. I do a lot of work there. I hate it when people will greet me because I have a habit on. And they want pictures too, by the way. They love pictures with friars with a habit. I hate it because I know that the next day I will not have my habit on and I will hear nothing from them. Because they're not about people. They're not about people. They're not about treating people like brothers and sisters. They want special people. And that special opportunity. And so that's my allergy. I want to share my allergy as I say that because even though, again, it's a different generation, we have different concerns. There is something about what does it mean to belong to the sect of Franciscans? Do people get an identity out of that? That this is who I am? And I think, well, or as a Capuchin, do I get an identity out of being a Capuchin? I am a Capuchin because that means, thank God I'm not an OFM friar. And thank God I'm not a conventual. And thank God because everyone knows they suck. I mean, GORs, I mean, what the heck? Because that distinction gives me an identity. Just being different gives me an identity. We can't be that way, can it? I mean, St. Paul thought that there is neither Jew nor Greek or slave nor free, and yet we say our Christian identity comes from being different from other people. But that's how those parishes in Pittsburgh got divided. Poles couldn't be with Germans. Italians were not going to worship with the Germans. They had their identity. They had their tribe. One of the hardest things in the church today in the United States is that we've outgrown tribalism. I don't know one relative who actually is going to a Catholic church. I'm trying to think. I was just talking to a former neighbor who's the same as their family, so I don't feel so bad. But, sorry, I'm going to do it. No, but anyway, so the fact that someone was an immigrant made the church the center of their world. And also at table last night, we said, isn't it amazing today that in the United States, we have the luxury not to need each other. The luxury not to need each other. We don't need an ethnic identity. We don't even need children because we have IRAs. We don't need to have groups. We only need groups if they keep us company, but we don't need them to survive, right? We have the luxury to be individuals. There are some countries in Puerto Rico right now. I was struck by some of our friars saying that in Utuado, Manuel Aviles was saying the devastation in Utuado has been severe. We still don't have total electricity in Utuado. But the people, he said, have just come together so much. This community is a vibrant and moving part of their lives because they need each other. They need the young people to go and get the water from the wells, and they need other people to put the things up on the what do you call it? Tarps. What's that? Tarps. No, right, the tarps, that kind of stuff. But anyway, but they need each other. We don't need each other in the United States. We come together when it serves us. We'll come together for worship when it serves us. And I'm talking about me. I don't know about you. Maybe I'm betraying myself because I don't want to accuse. But I just say I know that I don't need the brothers either. Not really. Unless, as long as there's food on the table, then if I have to go searching. But I really, who needs community, huh? And we don't need each other. We're just a little less human. That's why the last thing I'd like to just mention to you tonight is something that's, if you look at your booklet, I have put a section from a wonderful spiritual writer named Jean Vanier on page 27. You'll see that in the red page numbers